Hello, my name is Miss West. I'm the 6th and 8th grade social studies teacher here at Johns Creek School, and I'm going to be your social studies teacher this year. So let's get into it. Let's talk about some social studies. There are 4 themes that social studies is moving to. One of those is civic mindedness. Now I realize that's a really big word for you all, but civics has to do with like government and being a good citizen, being a good person, and we'll talk about that throughout the year. Economic decision making. Economics has to do with how you spend and how you make your money. And goods and services, supply and demand. And if you know any of those words, then we'll talk about those a little bit later, but hopefully you'll get really good at it. Geographical reasoning. Geographical reasoning is exactly what it sounds like. It's geography. It's learning about climates, learning about regions, learning about physical features of the earth. That means how they're made, like mountains and lakes. We'll also do some maps and learn about states and capitals and all that good stuff in geographical reasoning. And then the last one is historical thinking. Historical thinking has to do with history and the events and people that take place in the past. And we'll talk a lot about that kind of thing as well. So let's just see what you know. First, let's look at civic mindedness. Teachers, if you haven't passed out the handout, please pass that handout out now so that we can get started on the activity. Please pause the video while you pass out the handout. Okay, so we were talking about civic mindedness, right? Well, if you look in the upper left-hand corner of your paper, civic mindedness is when citizens participate in democratic processes, decisions will benefit the general welfare of society. I know lots of big words in that statement. That's just the key idea that deals with, one of the key ideas that deals with civic mindedness. But the democratic process that they're talking about is voting. Okay? Voting is really important because we vote for our leaders in our communities and in our government to help make decisions that help us. So you have voting in the upper left-hand corner of your paper. Do me a favor and either draw me a picture or write me a sentence about what voting is. Teachers, please pause the video so they can write what voting is. All right, snuck in on the other side, didn't I? So there's another part of civic mindedness, and here's another key idea with civic mindedness. Government functions to meet the needs of its citizens. Now the government's there for us. The government is there to make things easier for us, to feed us sometimes, to give us roads, to send you to school, and to make sure everybody's safe. So therefore we have laws. And the government makes those laws. And we'll talk about which part of government does that later on. But there is a section on your paper in the upper left-hand corner, or sorry, upper right-hand corner of your paper that says civic mindedness and laws. Please write me a sentence or draw a picture about laws. Teachers, please pause the video while they complete the activity. Okay, so we're not really done with civic mindedness. That's the only thing you have to do on your paper. But there's another part of government that we have to deal with. It's called taxes. Now, the government has to get money doing something, right? And so that's one way that the government gets money is through us as workers paying taxes. You pay different types of taxes. You might pay a city tax. You might pay a state tax. You pay income taxes to the national government. But those taxes help us with paying for schools so that you can come to school free. It also pays for roads and things that help us every day. So that's civic mindedness. Let's look at economic decision making. Now, this is a little bit big for you, but I know you can do it. There are costs and benefits associated with economic decisions and transactions. There are costs. When you buy something, you're giving up something else. Okay? So if you have to choose between a Hershey bar and a Reese cup, and you can't have both, then there's a cost to that, right? You lose that somehow, right? So let's talk about goods. If you buy something and you use it like a candy bar, then that's a good, okay? But if you buy somebody working for you, such as mowing your lawn, or if you get somebody to cut your hair, you don't really get anything for that, right? You're using their service to make it better for you. So there's services. You have goods and services at the bottom of your paper, okay? So what I'd like you to do is write a sentence or draw a picture that would describe what a good is, and then I would like you to draw a picture or write a sentence about what a service is. Teachers, please pause the video while they complete this activity. All right, we're not done with economic decision making yet. Let's talk a little bit more about it. It says in markets, supply and demand influence economic decisions. Well, supply flew on in here because you want a big supply of things, because when there's a big supply, that means the price is low. And so with demand, that's how much people want it. Now, you know, a few years ago when iPods came out, and they were first out, they were really, really expensive. That's because the supply was really low, but a lot of people, the demand, wanted it, okay? So as the iPods stay out longer, the older iPods have now dropped in price. Why do you think that is? It's because not very many people want them, and the supply is higher, okay? So supply and demand. You have that on the upper part of the back sheet of your paper. Please draw me a picture or write a sentence about supply and demand. Teachers, please pause the video so they can complete the activity. All right, I'm back. Remember, we had geographic reasoning as one of the themes too. However, I'm not going to do anything with that on here. Well, yeah, I am. Hang on. See, we all make mistakes, right? It's okay to make a mistake as long as you learn from it. So, geographic reasoning. Here's a key idea. You just don't have anything to do on your paper, okay? Culture and the environment affect human activities. Now, that's a big word, culture. Culture includes a lot of things. That includes what you eat, how you dress, where you live, what your people do. For example, hillbilly days. That is all included in your culture. Environment is where you live. We live in in 4 seasons, right? We live with winter, spring, summer, fall. Some places aren't like that. If you get close to the equator, it's always hot. If you get close to the poles, the North Pole and the South Pole on the Earth, then it's always cold. So we get to experience those 4 seasons, and I really like that. How about you? So, geographic reasoning. Here's another key idea. People, goods, and ideas are continually moving. People are moving all the time. They go on vacation. Goods are moving because they ship goods to different places. You know, we don't have a Hershey factory here, but there is one in Pennsylvania, and they ship their Hershey's to us. And ideas are even moving, okay? So that's called transportation. You guys have ever heard of transportation before? That could be with a car, that could be with a truck, that could be walking, moving. You're moving, okay? Transportation. So the last 2 things on your worksheet that you have to complete has to do with historical thinking, okay? So here's a key idea with historical thinking. People's perspectives of the past can be understood by comparing different types of sources and multiple accounts of the same event. That's a lot of words, and it's a whole lot to put in your mouth at one time, isn't it? But what this means is that you can take lots of sources like newspapers or letters or books and come up with your own idea about history, okay? Newspapers would be a primary source because it's written during that time. Letters are also a primary source because they're written while that's happening. See, a primary source means that you're there. You saw it, okay? You saw it happen. You saw somebody score the winning goal. You are a primary source. You could actually be a primary source to talk to somebody if you were there, okay? So let's look at the last one. Sources provide evidence about why events of the past happened. Seen this word yet this year? You're going to see it a lot. Because what your teachers are going to ask you to do is provide evidence for things. History's the same way. You have to be able to prove it. Okay? You have to have evidence. So you have the primary sources like I was talking about. You also have a secondary source. Okay? Primary sources, you were there. Secondary source, you're not there. You heard about it from somebody else. Your history book, if you had a history book, would be a secondary source. If you weren't at the game, but you're telling about it because your friend told you, then you are a secondary source. Teachers, they have 2 more to complete. They have to draw a picture or write a sentence about a primary and a secondary source. Please pause the video while they do this. All right, I'm back. And I hope you completed your worksheet and were successful with that. Now we'll be taking those worksheets up, and I want to see how much you improve all year long. I think you guys will really be enjoying these classes. We'll do lots of fun stuff, and I can't wait to see you, well, sort of see you again. See you later. Bye.